Stop questioning why this person entered your life. The more you fight this connection, the stronger it seems to become. Some meetings are not accidents. They arrive because your inner world is finally ready to change forever. By the end of this video, you'll understand why certain souls appear exactly when your old identity begins to fall apart, why confusion often hides profound meaning, and why resisting this connection may be resisting your own transformation. If this message is helping you see your experiences from a completely different perspective, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may be struggling to understand an unexpected connection. More importantly, stay until the end, because the final insight may completely change how you interpret every meaningful relationship you've ever had. The moment a certain person enters your life, something invisible begins to move beneath the surface of your ordinary existence. Nothing on the outside may seem extraordinary at first. You exchange words, share moments, or simply become aware of one another. Yet deep within, an ancient process quietly awakens. Your routines begin to feel different. Old questions return with unexpected force. Hidden emotions that had remained silent for years suddenly demand attention. Most people believe this is merely attraction or coincidence, but the deepest encounters often serve another purpose entirely. They disturb the comfortable order of your inner world because they arrive not to complete the person you were, but to awaken the person you have not yet become. Every meaningful encounter acts as a doorway, inviting you into parts of yourself that have remained locked behind fear, habit, and unconscious patterns. There is a reason these connections often feel impossible to explain. The conscious mind seeks predictable causes and simple answers, but the inner world speaks through symbols, emotions, and experiences that cannot always be measured by logic alone. Sometimes a single conversation leaves a deeper impression than years spent with someone else. Sometimes one glance seems strangely familiar, as though it carries echoes from a place beyond memory. This is not because the other person possesses magical qualities. It is because they unknowingly activate dormant aspects of your own psyche. They become a mirror reflecting strengths you have ignored, desires you have denied, and wounds you have carefully hidden beneath layers of control. What feels mysterious is often the experience of finally seeing yourself through the presence of another human being. Yet this awakening is rarely comfortable. Most people expect meaningful relationships to bring immediate peace, certainty, and emotional security. Instead, they often encounter confusion, vulnerability, and inner conflict. The arrival of a significant soul may expose fears of abandonment, rejection, inadequacy, or loss that have quietly shaped your decisions for years. These emotions were not created by the relationship. They already existed beneath the surface, waiting for the right circumstance to reveal themselves. The other person simply becomes the catalyst that brings hidden realities into the light. This is why profound connections frequently feel both beautiful and unsettling at the same time. They illuminate what has been concealed, and illumination always demands honesty. Many people misunderstand this process and attempt to escape it. They distance themselves emotionally, search for logical explanations, or convince themselves that the connection is merely an illusion. Yet avoiding the mirror does not erase the reflection. The lessons continue to appear in different forms until they are understood. Every meaningful encounter carries an invitation to grow beyond old limitations. It asks you to release outdated identities built upon fear and replace them with greater authenticity and self-awareness. The purpose is never to lose yourself inside another person. The purpose is to discover the deeper self that could only emerge because another soul unknowingly revealed its existence. Understanding a profound connection is not the distance between two people. It is the conflict within ourselves. The rational mind is built to protect us. It gathers evidence, analyzes behavior, predicts outcomes, and searches for certainty before allowing us to trust. This ability is essential for navigating the external world, yet it becomes limited when confronted with experiences that belong to the deeper layers of the psyche. There are moments when you meet someone and feel an immediate sense of familiarity that logic cannot explain. Your thoughts insist that it is too soon, too unlikely, or too irrational, while something far beneath conscious awareness quietly recognizes a significance that words cannot fully capture. This inner conflict is where doubt is born, not because the connection lacks meaning, but because the conscious mind struggles to interpret what the deeper self has already sensed. The mind prefers what is predictable, because predictability creates the illusion of safety. It measures affection by time, trust by evidence, and commitment by observable actions. Yet the deepest experiences of life often refuse to follow these calculations. A single encounter can reshape your inner world more profoundly than years of ordinary relationships. A brief conversation may linger in your thoughts long after countless others have been forgotten. This does not mean every intense emotion is a sign of destiny. Rather, it reminds us that the human psyche responds to meaning before it responds to explanation. What appears irrational on the surface may simply belong to a level of understanding that the intellect has not yet reached. When the heart recognizes something important before the mind does, resistance naturally appears. Questions begin to multiply. Why do I feel this way? Why can't I stop thinking about this person? Why does this connection challenge everything I believed about myself? Instead of listening to these questions with curiosity, many people try to silence them. They analyze every message, every silence, every coincidence, hoping to force certainty where none yet exists. The more they seek complete control, the more anxious they become. The search for absolute answers often blinds them to the quiet transformation already taking place within. This struggle reveals an important truth about human growth. Real transformation rarely begins with certainty. It begins with uncertainty that invites exploration. The discomfort you feel is not necessarily a warning to retreat. Sometimes it is an invitation to examine the beliefs that have governed your life without your awareness. Perhaps you have learned to distrust vulnerability, to avoid emotional risk, or to believe that every meaningful connection must fit a familiar pattern. When a relationship refuses to follow those expectations, it exposes the invisible rules that have quietly shaped your decisions for years. In that moment, the greatest discovery is not about the other person, it is about yourself. As the mind gradually learns to work alongside the deeper wisdom within, a remarkable shift begins to occur. The need to control every outcome slowly gives way to the willingness to observe, learn, and grow. You stop demanding immediate certainty and begin appreciating the lessons hidden within the journey itself. Whether the connection lasts a lifetime or only a season becomes less important than the transformation it awakens. The mind finally realizes that its purpose is not to suppress the voice of the soul, but to help give it conscious direction. When these two parts of your being begin to cooperate instead of compete, you no longer fear the mystery of meaningful connections. You allow them to reveal the deeper truth they were always meant to uncover. One of the greatest misconceptions about deep human connection is the belief that it should bring only peace, comfort, and certainty. In reality, the relationships that transform us most profoundly often begin by disturbing the very parts of ourselves we have spent years trying to avoid. When a truly significant person enters your life, they do more than make you feel loved or understood. Their presence illuminates hidden fears, forgotten insecurities, and emotional patterns that have quietly influenced your choices without your awareness. This can feel unsettling, even frightening, because it challenges the image you have carefully built of who you believe yourself to be.
Yet discomfort is not always a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes it is the first indication that something long buried is finally coming into the light.
Within every person exists a hidden side of the personality. The emotions, impulses, memories, and qualities that have been ignored, rejected, or pushed into the unconscious because they felt too painful or too difficult to face. These hidden aspects do not disappear simply because they are forgotten. Instead, they continue shaping our reactions from behind the scenes. A meaningful relationship has a remarkable ability to reveal these concealed layers. A simple misunderstanding may awaken an old fear of abandonment. A delayed reply might stir feelings of rejection that have existed since childhood. A partner's independence may expose your own fear of losing control. The other person does not create these emotions. They simply become the mirror that reflects what has always been waiting to be acknowledged. This is why powerful relationships often feel contradictory. You may experience profound love alongside unexpected anxiety, deep admiration alongside jealousy, or overwhelming hope alongside fear of loss. Many people assume these conflicting emotions prove the relationship is unhealthy or mistaken. Yet emotional intensity does not always signal danger. More often, it reveals that important psychological material has reached the surface of consciousness. The pain you experience is not necessarily evidence that the connection is failing. It may be evidence that your inner world is asking for attention in ways it never has before. Every uncomfortable emotion carries a message about a part of yourself that is ready to be understood rather than ignored. Unfortunately, many people respond to this process by blaming the relationship instead of examining themselves. They withdraw, become defensive, seek constant reassurance, or attempt to control the other person in order to quiet the discomfort within. These strategies may provide temporary relief, but they leave the deeper wound untouched. Real growth begins when you recognize that your strongest emotional reactions often reveal more about your own unfinished inner work than about the actions of another person. This realization is not an invitation to excuse harmful behavior or ignore genuine problems. Rather, it is an opportunity to distinguish between what belongs to the present moment and what has been carried forward from the past. The courage to face these hidden aspects of yourself transforms the purpose of love entirely. Instead of expecting another person to remove your fears, you begin allowing the relationship to expose them so they can finally be healed. The connection becomes more than a source of happiness. It becomes a path toward greater self-awareness, emotional maturity, and inner freedom. As the hidden parts of your personality are brought into conscious awareness, they gradually lose their power to control your life from the shadows. What once felt like emotional chaos becomes the foundation for genuine transformation. In the end, the deepest relationships are not those that protect you from yourself. They are the ones that give you the courage to finally meet yourself with honesty, compassion, and strength. One of the most difficult truths to accept is that not every meaningful connection unfolds according to our expectations. We imagine that if two people are deeply important to one another, their path should be smooth, immediate, and free from interruption. Yet life often moves in a very different rhythm. Some of the most transformative relationships are marked by periods of silence, physical distance, unexpected misunderstandings, or timing that seems painfully imperfect. These interruptions are easy to mistake for failure, but they may serve a deeper purpose. Growth rarely occurs when everything is comfortable. It often begins when certainty disappears, forcing each person to confront themselves without relying on the constant presence of the other. Separation has a remarkable way of revealing what closeness can sometimes conceal. While two people are together, it is easy to focus on the relationship itself. But when distance appears, attention is redirected inward. The absence of another person
exposes emotional habits that were previously hidden beneath daily interactions. It becomes clear whether your sense of peace depended entirely on their presence or whether it was rooted within yourself. Loneliness may uncover a fear of abandonment. Silence may reveal an addiction to reassurance. Uncertainty may expose a deep need to control outcomes. These discoveries are uncomfortable, yet they provide valuable insight into the parts of your inner world that still seek healing and understanding.
During these periods, many people become convinced that they must force the connection back into existence.
They overanalyze every conversation, search for hidden meanings in every action, and exhaust themselves trying to restore what once felt certain. Yet there are moments when doing less accomplishes more than doing everything. Not because the relationship no longer matters, but because genuine growth cannot be rushed. Every attempt to control another person's journey often distracts you from the work your own soul is asking you to complete. Sometimes the greatest act of wisdom is allowing life to unfold without demanding immediate answers. Patience is not passive resignation. It is quiet confidence that what is meant to mature cannot be forced before its season.
Distance also transforms both individuals in ways that are impossible to achieve through constant togetherness. Each person encounters new experiences, develops greater emotional awareness, and gradually sheds the identities that no longer serve them. The lessons learned apart become the very qualities that make a future reunion healthier, if one is meant to happen. Even when two paths never cross again, the separation is not without meaning. The influence of that connection continues shaping choices, expanding self-awareness, and encouraging growth long after the visible relationship has changed. In this way, absence becomes another teacher, revealing truths that presence alone could never fully uncover. When viewed through this deeper perspective, separation is no longer simply a painful interruption. It becomes part of the larger movement of transformation. You stop measuring the value of a relationship solely by how long it lasts, or how closely two people remain connected. Instead, you begin asking a more profound question. What has this period of distance awakened within me? That question shifts your attention from loss to learning, from fear to understanding. Whether life eventually brings two souls together again or leads them along different paths, the purpose remains the same: to awaken greater wisdom, deeper authenticity, and a stronger relationship with yourself. Sometimes the distance you resist most is the very space where your greatest transformation quietly begins. Many people believe the purpose of love is to find someone who will finally make life feel complete.
They search for comfort, certainty, and emotional security, hoping another person will fill the emptiness they have carried for years. While companionship can bring joy and support, the deepest relationships offer something far greater than comfort. They challenge the identities we have constructed, expose the habits that limit our growth, and invite us to become more authentic than we have ever dared to be. Love, at its highest expression, is not a destination where personal development ends. It is the beginning of a lifelong transformation that reshapes the way we understand ourselves and the world around us.
When two people truly influence one another, they rarely remain the same individuals they were before they met.
Old beliefs begin to crumble. Priorities shift. Ambitions evolve. Emotional patterns that once seemed permanent gradually lose their hold. This transformation can feel disorienting because growth often requires the release of familiar versions of ourselves. The person who once relied on constant approval begins learning self-respect. The one who feared vulnerability slowly discovers the strength hidden within honesty. The individual who sought control over every outcome starts realizing that trust often requires surrender rather than certainty. These changes are not signs of losing your identity. They are signs that your identity is expanding beyond the limits of fear.
The greatest relationships do not simply celebrate your strengths. They also reveal the places where you still have room to grow. They challenge your patience when you become impulsive. They confront your pride when humility is needed. They expose your avoidance when courage is required. This process is rarely comfortable because genuine transformation demands that outdated beliefs give way to deeper understanding. Many people mistake these challenges for evidence that the relationship is flawed. In reality, the discomfort often arises because your inner world is resisting the very growth it has long needed. Every meaningful challenge becomes an invitation to evolve into someone wiser, calmer, and more emotionally whole. Yet, transformation is not about becoming someone entirely different. It is about uncovering the qualities that have always existed beneath fear, insecurity, and unconscious conditioning. Courage replaces avoidance. Compassion softens judgment. Emotional maturity overcomes impulsive reactions. Authenticity takes the place of carefully maintained masks. The relationship becomes less about changing another person and more about allowing each individual to discover their own deepest potential. When both people embrace this process, love becomes a shared path of growth rather than a struggle for control or validation. Each encourages the other, not by demanding perfection, but by inspiring greater self-awareness and inner freedom.